Carter's moral line that left him politically alone. He believed doing the right thing would be enough. He underestimated how costly morality could become, and he discovered how lonely principle feels when power resists it. To understand Jimmy Carter's presidency, we must begin with conviction rather than crisis. Carter did not enter office seeking dominance, spectacle, or legacy. He arrived believing leadership was a form of service, that honesty could repair distrust, that morality could guide policy without compromise. In a nation exhausted by scandal and cynicism, this belief felt refreshing. It would also prove isolating. Carter inherited a country skeptical of authority. Watergate had shattered faith. Vietnam had scarred confidence. Americans wanted integrity more than ambition. Carter offered exactly that. He spoke plainly. He rejected excess. He promised transparency and restraint. For a moment, it worked. The presidency felt human again. But morality is demanding. It does not bend easily to politics. Carter believed ethical consistency mattered more than convenience. He applied the same standards to allies and adversaries. He criticized dictators regardless of alignment. He elevated human rights as a cornerstone of foreign policy, even when it disrupted long-standing strategies. This approach unsettled everyone. Allies felt judged. Opponents felt challenged. Advisors felt constrained. Carter refused to trade principle for leverage. He believed compromise on values weakened legitimacy. Power, in his view, was only justified when it reflected conscience. The problem was not intention. It was environment. The world Carter faced was volatile. Energy crises, economic stagnation, rising tensions abroad. Each problem demanded speed, flexibility, and political bargaining. Carter responded with caution and moral clarity. The gap between expectation and reality widened. Inside the presidency, Carter felt the strain immediately. His refusal to play politics left him without a reliable coalition. Congress resisted. Bureaucracy stalled. Even allies grew impatient. Carter believed perseverance would win respect. Instead, it deepened isolation. This was the beginning of his defining conflict. A leader convinced that integrity would sustain authority, discovering that authority often demands compromise. Carter drew a moral line early in his presidency. He believed it would anchor his leadership. He did not yet realize how many people would choose to stand on the other side of it. That line hardened as crises refused to respect it. Morality, Carter learned, did not shield a president from consequence. Economic pressure mounted quickly. Inflation surged. Energy shortages rattled daily life. Americans wanted relief, not lectures. Carter spoke honestly about limits, conservation, and shared sacrifice. He believed truth would steady the nation. Instead, it unsettled it. Candor sounded like pessimism in an era craving reassurance. Foreign policy intensified the strain. Carter applied human rights standards consistently, even when it disrupted alliances. Authoritarian partners bristled. Strategic leverage weakened. Critics argued he was trading power for principle in a world that rewarded strength. Carter accepted the criticism, convinced that legitimacy mattered more than dominance. The Middle East tested him further. Peace efforts demanded patience, empathy, and moral framing. Carter invested deeply, personally, believing reconciliation was possible if leaders were treated as human beings rather than adversaries. The effort consumed time, focus, and political capital. Success abroad came at the cost of support at home. Inside Washington, isolation deepened. Carter distrusted traditional power brokers. He centralized decision-making, believing distance protected integrity. Instead, it narrowed perspective. Advisors rotated. Relationships frayed. The presidency grew quieter, more contained, more alone. The emotional conflict sharpened here. Carter felt misunderstood rather than opposed. He believed his intentions were clear. The public believed he lacked control. Principle without persuasion struggled to survive democratic impatience. Then came the crisis that exposed everything. Americans taken hostage. A nation humiliated. Pressure for force surged instantly. Carter resisted rash action. He prioritized negotiation, restraint, and the value of human life. The moral line held. Politically, it was devastating. Each day the hostages remained captive, Carter's isolation became visible. Critics framed restraint as weakness, patience as paralysis. The presidency felt frozen, trapped between conscience and expectation. Carter had chosen morality over momentum. Now, he was paying the price. The conflict reached its breaking point as patience ran out, and morality met the limits of power. As the hostage crisis dragged on, Carter's presidency narrowed to a single question: how long could restraint survive humiliation? Every failed negotiation deepened public frustration. Every passing day reinforced the sense of paralysis. Carter understood the danger of force, but the nation demanded action. Behind the scenes, options were weighed relentlessly. Military rescue, escalation, retaliation. Each carried enormous risk. Carter knew that failure would not only cost lives, but destroy what remained of trust. Yet inaction was eroding that trust just as quickly. The decision to attempt a rescue marked the emotional peak of his presidency, not because it contradicted his values, but because it tested them. Carter authorized a mission knowing the risk, believing responsibility sometimes required action even when success was uncertain. The operation failed, equipment malfunctioned, conditions collapsed, lives were lost. The nation watched hope turn into devastation in a single night. Carter took full responsibility. No excuses, no deflection. The moral line remained intact, but the political cost was irreversible. Isolation became absolute. Support evaporated. Confidence collapsed. Carter was no longer judged by intent or integrity, but by outcome. The presidency does not grade on conscience. It grades on results. This was the true conflict of Carter's story, not between right and wrong, but between morality and effectiveness. He had acted with restraint. He had acted with care. And still, the nation felt weaker. Carter realized something few leaders admit. Doing the right thing does not guarantee survival in office. Democracy rewards success, not sincerity. And power, once stripped of confidence, cannot enforce virtue. The moral line he drew never moved. The nation moved away from him instead. The resolution arrived not with redemption, but with endurance. Carter left office without bitterness. He did not rewrite his record to please critics. He accepted the verdict of the moment while trusting history to be more patient. The moral line he drew remained where it had always been. He had refused to cross it, even when it cost him power. In the years that followed, Carter's presidency was re-examined, not for triumphs, but for consistency, for restraint, for the belief that leadership could be guided by conscience rather than force. His post-presidency only reinforced this image. Service replaced authority. Action replaced ambition. His story matters because it challenges assumptions about success. Carter proved that morality and politics do not always align, that doing what is right can isolate you, and that leadership sometimes demands accepting loss without regret. The presidency did not reward Carter's principles. History, slowly, began to respect them. His isolation became a testament rather than a failure, a reminder that integrity can exist even when power slips away. Carter showed that leadership is not only about winning, it is about refusing to become something you cannot live with. The cost of that refusal can be high. The reward may arrive too late to matter personally. Some leaders bend history to survive. Others stand still and let history judge. Carter stood still. So what do you think? Was the price of principle too high? Carter